My name is Myra Pullman. I was 33 years old the night my father handed me a letter that was supposed to end me. It was my sister Leah's wedding. 300 guests. A lakeside estate wrapped in fairy lights that reflected off the water like scattered coins. The band was playing something slow and golden, and Leah stood 12 feet away in imported lace, champagne in one hand, watching me, waiting. My father walked across the reception floor holding a cream-colored envelope sealed with wax, his initials pressed into it. He handed it to me in front of 6 people at my table. 2 pages, typed. Legal language mixed with personal grievance. The last line told me I was no longer a Pullman in any meaningful way. Leah's smile widened. She expected tears. She expected a scene. But here is what none of them knew. 3 weeks before my father sealed that envelope, I had already signed something that would reshape everything they thought they owned. My mother's name was Carol Pullman. She co-founded Pullman Development Corporation in 1998 with 40% ownership and a drafting table she bought at a garage sale. She designed the first 3 commercial builds that put the company on the map. My father sold them. That was the arrangement. She built, he talked. She died of pancreatic cancer when I was 14. 2 weeks after her funeral, I found my father clearing out her closet, suits in trash bags, jewelry in a shoebox for donation. But he missed something. In the back corner of her top shelf, behind a stack of old blueprints, sat a small cedar box. Dark wood, brass hinges. It smelled like cedar and lavender and old paper. Inside was a letter, handwritten, addressed to me. Myra, everything I built so you would never have to beg. Remember that when they tell you what you deserve. I was 14. I thought mothers just said things like that. I kept the box. I kept the letter. I did not look at the back of it for 19 years. 11 months after my mother died, my father brought Diane home. She was the company's bookkeeper. She had attended the funeral. 2nd row black dress, dry eyes. By spring, she had moved in. By summer, she had reorganized the house. My mother's reading chair went to the garage. Her framed prints came off the walls. Her design awards were boxed and stored in the attic. I found my parents' wedding photo in the recycling bin on a Tuesday morning, tucked between a cereal box and junk mail. I pulled it out and carried it to my room without a word. Diane knocked on my door that evening. She sat on the edge of my bed and put a hand on my shoulder. Your mother would have wanted your father to be happy. Do not make this about you. I was 15. I did not have the vocabulary for what I felt. I left the day after my 18th birthday. 1 suitcase, a scholarship letter, and the cedar box tucked between 2 sweaters. My father stood in the kitchen doorway and said, "If you walk out that door, do not expect anything from this family." I walked out the door. 15 years later, I was a project manager overseeing hospital expansions and mixed-use developments worth tens of millions. I earned every title. I never called home asking for money or a reference. I carried everything alone. Then, at 32, I applied for a mortgage. The officer called back within 48 hours. 2 home equity lines of credit, $180,000 total, opened when I was 16 and 17. My social security number, my date of birth, properties owned by Pullman Development Corporation, debt I had never signed for. I called my closest friend Grace, an estate attorney. She picked up on the 2nd ring. Myra, she said after I read her the numbers. They stole your name. Grace kept digging. 3 layers deep in a county clerk's digital archive, she found a testamentary trust established by Carol Ann Pullman in 2006, 1 year before her diagnosis. Filed with an independent attorney, the trust designated 1 beneficiary, me, the asset, 40% ownership of Pullman Development Corporation. Activation date, my 30th birthday. I was 32. The trust should have activated 2 years ago. My father, as executor of my mother's estate, was legally required to notify me. He never did. He suppressed it for 19 years. Grace called me at 9:14 at night. Myra, your mother left you 40% of that company. I sat on my kitchen floor. The tile was cold under my legs. I held the letter against my chest that night in my hotel room, the night before the wedding. I read the front again, then turned the paper over. I had never looked at the back. Not at 14, not at 18, not at 25 or 32. On the back, in my mother's handwriting, smaller and more careful, were 3 things. A name, a phone number, and the words, "Ask for the trust." My mother knew. She knew he would suppress it. She wrote herself a backup plan in her own hand and hid it in a cedar box for her daughter to find. At the wedding, I took the letter, folded it twice, and tucked it into my jacket pocket. I said, "Thank you, Dad. I will keep this." Then I walked to the dance floor and asked Nathan's uncle if he wanted to dance. He did. Monday morning, 2 envelopes landed on my father's desk. One from the state attorney general, one from Grace on my behalf. Trust activation notice, 40% ownership, demand for full credit remediation, $47,000 in damages. My father called at 4:17. What the hell is this? No greeting. No preamble. You are going to destroy this family over money. You opened home equity lines in my name when I was 16, Dad. Silence. You suppressed Mom's trust for 19 years. Silence. And you handed me a letter at a wedding telling me I am not family. Myra, please. That was the moment. That single word from a man who had signed a letter disowning his daughter 3 days earlier. Talk to your attorney, Dad. Mine is ready. The settlement came 6 weeks later. Full transfer of 40%. Both credit lines closed. All debt removed from my record. $47,000 in restitution. And Carol Pullman's name restored as co-founder on all corporate documents, the website, and the lobby plaque at the main office. I stared at the company website that evening. Second paragraph. Pullman Development Corporation was founded in 1998 by Carol and Richard Pullman. Her name. In the same font as his. In the same sentence as his. 20 years after they removed it. I put the cedar box on my desk. I opened the lid one last time. Cedar and lavender. 19 years and the smell had not faded. I closed the lid. You cannot erase someone who already knows who she is. My mother taught me that, not with speeches, not with lectures, but with a few words written on the back of a letter I carried for 19 years.